Hey, everyone. Welcome into episode 2 of Don't Spill the Mixie podcast. Alongside my partner, Matt Vieneman, I'm Mark Redford. Matt, what are we drinking tonight?
We got a little Crown and Coke, and I gotta admit it, Red. I did not get the red Solo cup like I promised in episode 1. I do have a silver one though.
Silver's
So,
passable. Silver's
so
passable.
cheers to episode 2, my friend.
Cheers to episode 2. I got Blue Mountains over here, a little Coors Light action. Cracked a cold one right out of the fridge, so we're ready to
Nice.
rumble.
Taste the Rockies.
Ooh, that's crisp, clean, refreshing. So today, when you guys are listening, it'll be Monday, April 14th. And by the time you've heard this, golf is both simultaneously 100% back, and in my opinion, it has also reached its peak.
And what a weekend.
What a weekend of golf. I sat and watched golf for the better part of basically 5 straight hours, and it was absolutely marvelous.
Yeah, I watched more golf this weekend than I think I ever have. One, because we talked about it and we started podcasting about it, so I wanted to make sure I had my ducks in a row when we were talking about it today. And two, maybe had a few wagers on it, if I'm being completely honest, that I did not hit. Um, and three, there was a little personal banter between yourself and I based on some of our conversations from last week. Um, so yeah, it was a great week and a great week to sit on the couch and watch a little bit of golf.
This for being a golf watching casual, I'm way more, obviously with Masters flag in the background here, I'm way more of a golf aficionado than you are. Play a lot more golf, although my game might suggest our skill levels are very close. Having played with you a couple times, we're very competitive there. But I generally follow golf significantly closer than you do. But you picked an absolutely phenomenal weekend to sit and watch a full golf tournament for the entire weekend. Because today specifically, I haven't watched golf like that in almost my entire life. I can't remember a tournament like that where you just saw so many swings and there were at least 5 or 6 different people who legitimately had every chance imaginable to win the green jacket. Just absolutely insane.
Oh, definitely. It started out, woke up, fired up Paramount Plus so I could get some of I call them the dark matches before it kicks off. But some good golf there. And then crazy out of the gates when Rory and Bryson got off that hot start. It was just nuts when Bryson took that one stroke lead after the first or second hole, and Rory looked like he was falling apart. And I sent you that text, and I was like, "Oh no, are you nervous? Are you getting a little bit nervous?" And we both said there's a lot of golf left. And then actually, I went to Top Golf today for a couple hours. It's like, hey, you know what? Get out, swing. Went to lunch after, had it on. By the time I got home, Rory had a 3-shot lead after 2 or 3 holes, and I was like, what is going on? So just an absolutely crazy day and a crazy first 5 holes for those two teeing off at I think 2:30.
Yeah, absolutely wild. They both traded 2 shot leads, I think, within the span of the first 5 holes. And I think at one point I kind of thought that both of them were going to run away and hide. I thought Bryson was going to run away and hide just by playing steady, even golf to start out because Rory was basically just crap in the bed. And I kind of thought that he just wasn't going to be able to hold on. And then lo and behold, 3 or 4 holes in, Bryson gives the lead right back and forth we go. And then from there, like the middle of the round, Rory was basically in control for the better part of probably 9 holes, 8 or 9 holes,
Yeah.
something like that, kind of the middle nine. And then all of a sudden, he kind of got to the end of Amen Corner on 13, put one in Ray's Creek and made a seven. And then from there, it was game on with guys that had just been kind of hanging around and like hoping to cash big money, not really thinking that they were in contention. And all of a sudden, I'm starting to get texts from you with roses all over the place because Justin Rose is in the middle of the mix, and Rory's just bringing everybody into the field back into this thing when you thought he was going to run away and hide by 4 strokes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's why I was sending that. I was like, anybody but when you said those two, either Rory or Bryson, 1 and 2 are versus the field, and I took the field, and I was like, you know what, I gotta go down with guns a blazing at some point. Hopefully Justin Rose or Patrick Reed hit that eagle, that chip from way off on I
Yeah,
think
he was like 175
16.
out.
Yeah, and put him at I think 9 under or 10 under, so he was within striking distance. So I was like, please, anybody. And then at the same time, Scotty was slowly creeping up the leaderboard, and I think I sent you a text how many putts he missed by an inch or two that would have put him right there at the top. So it's just crazy how it is a game of inches, game of centimeters. And then Rory had one where he was putting for birdie, I think on 13 or 14, and it just held up on the lip and didn't drop in. And I was like, oh no, that might be the one that does him in. And then you get to what happened on 18 when he hit that second shot into the sand. Had a really good save out of it. Had a really good lineup for, but I can't also imagine his heart racing going into that putt after he hit that chip out of the bunker. It had to have been crazy. And it's just, even the best athletes in the world have the jitters and have the nerves, and they do this professionally. So
Yeah,
just very interesting.
you you can't prepare your mind for the absolute highest of high stakes. And I don't care how many reps you take. I don't care whether it's basketball, football. Like, you can't prepare for the insanity of the absolute peak moment because there's just no way to rep that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you've done the strokes and you put in the time and you put in, like, you have the skills, but you can't replicate the drama and, like you said, your heart just pumping. Like, I'm sitting there over that bunker shot and I don't even know if I could like hold the club straight without it shaking if
Yeah.
I'm in that moment.
Yeah.
And then he puts it to 6 feet to win the Masters.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he yeah, that chip out, and then I can't imagine what he was going through. And then what the letdown when he misses that putt on the left side of the cup by an inch or two, knowing that he's now going into a one hole or however many hole playoff with Justin Rose, who stayed warming up on the side or out on the range, luckily. And then he gave it all he had too. After that, his second shot was a really good shot, and I think he got a little unlucky because of the bounce he had off the green. It didn't quite get up the slope to roll down. It just stuck up there. Unlike this Rory's second shot where he hit almost the same one, but ended up getting it up a little farther and got the momentum on the roll back down to get it to within a couple feet. But yeah, just an amazing finish. That's why I kept texting you. I was hoping it was going to go to a playoff. I didn't want it to end. I wanted it to keep going at least until the sun went down.
It was so much fun. I mean, it was so much back and forth. And like every time you thought Rory was going to just run away with it, like I said, he would just do something to throw up all over himself. And it was just the most heart wrenching, like gut stopping swings. And then he would pull off these miracle shots to get him right back into it. He'd make a birdie on a hole that you wouldn't expect him to. His shot on 17, his long iron in, where he's yelling at it to go, 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 go. And it two hops to 4 feet for birdie to take the lead. And you're like, finally, he's got this. All he needs to do is come in, make par. And like you said, he throws one in the sand and misses, hits a really good sand shot, misses it on the putt coming back. And then after all that, this insane 5 hour, 18 holes of golf, this guy's got to go back and figure out a way to play one more hole and go try and win it all over again. And just at that point, he's got to be so sick of that course. He's got to be so sick of being out there in the spotlight, just ready to go home. Like, give me second place. I'm done with this. I've had it. I've lost it 4 times this round. Just holy moly. The back and forth, it was absolutely outrageous.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just a little disappointed because I had one of my wagers was on Bryson, and he just fell apart after he took the lead after hole number 2. And just went downhill. And then he kept trying to fight back, and then he'd hit one in the water, and then he would end up saving par out of that. And then he'd miss a short birdie putt, and then he'd miss another one by a couple inches to the right. So he was always hanging around there, just wasn't his day.
Nope, wasn't his day. I don't know if you heard it on the broadcast, but I think it was like 11 or 12, somewhere early on the back nine. One of the commentators, made the comment that he just kind of lost focus or looked like really tired. And that to me seemed like a perfect description of the way he kind of played after he came out. Like, it seemed like he was laser focused and he was going to be the guy that did it. And like, he was going to be right there stride for stride with Rory the entire round, the first 4 holes. And then all of a sudden, like, the wind just kind of got taken out of his sails. And then the start of the second nine, he just had zero juice. Just he wanted to be anywhere but there. Like,
Yeah.
he was done playing. Looked like he was just basically done playing golf for the day. Like, he had signed up to play nine, and then he makes the turn, and he's got to play another 9 holes, and he just looks spent.
That's how I golf. That's why whenever people are, hey, do you want to go golfing or whatever? I'm like, I will, but if we can only do 9, and most people, everybody's like, oh, we need to play 18. We need to play 18. I was like, okay. I lose focus and I lose patience when it comes to that. I just don't have enough patience for golf. So the first 9 holes, I'm fine. I can hang in there. But the last 9, I just trying to whack the ball, try to get the course. Because after the first 9, I'm just done. I'm cooked. I feel him there, but at the same time, I'm also not playing for a green jacket. I'm also not playing for hundreds of thousands of dollars, depending on which place.
4.1 mil to the winner.
Or hundreds of $1,000 between 5th place, 6th place, 7th place, and it's just crazy. Not that money's everything, but that is the majority of why they're out there. Of course, there's always the love of the game, but yeah, just crazy to know that he ended up falling apart like he did. I was not expecting that.
No, not at all. Especially the way that he ran away with, I think it was the U.S. Open last year. U.S. Open or PGA, I don't remember which one he won. But whichever one where he basically just stole it from Rory at the end. It was a complete 180 of that, basically. And you were kind of expecting, after those first couple holes, you were kind of expecting him to do the same thing. And then he just kind of vanished and lost his spot near the top of the leaderboard and never really got his mojo back after that. So
Yeah.
it kind of circled their wagons with Justin Rose, kind of circled the wagons with Ludwig Oberg. And then he bottomed out on an 18. That was tough to watch.
Yeah,
Man,
that's
he
7.
was whacking it side to side.
Yeah, that was rough. They were when Patrick Reed was going to hit his shot. The announcers were like, "Well, he's been sitting back there for about 15 minutes because Ludwig's been hitting his ball back and forth, and it took him forever to get 7 strokes." And I was like, that's just a normal hole for me."
Yeah, he got to experience the whole course. He's getting his money's worth out there.
Yeah, I was like, even it even happens to the professionals, so I don't feel as bad.
No, but like you said, cost him a couple $100,000 messing around on number 18 there. He lost a decent chunk of change there at the end.
Oh, definitely. And it was very interesting watching every day because each one of them could have won each single day. So going into the end of the round today, like Justin Rose could have got on a hot streak. Patrick Reed could have got on a hot streak. Any of them could have won it depending on any given day, right? So it's just crazy watching that much golf and paying that much attention to it when I hadn't in the past. It was either I'm going to follow it because I had a draft in it, or I'm going to follow it just in the last hour or 2 hours on Sunday. Definitely going to be paying more attention and watching closer to at least the Masters moving forward.
Yeah, major golf is different. The 4 majors are always super fun. The caveat to that is I always try to watch. I try to watch as much golf as I can. I like watching it. I like having it on, especially big tournaments and things like that. The majors, especially. British Open is a little bit tricky because of the time difference. So you're watching basically like 6 hours later worth of coverage. So the coverage finishes up way earlier in the day. So even by the time you get up in the morning, like half of the field on Sunday has already teed off, and like I think the leaders tee off at like 10 o'clock in the morning or something like that, which is just kind of a weird vibe. Like you lose kind of that perfect afternoon slot for golf to take place. But other than that, like the majors are always good, I feel like. But this one, in my opinion, was 10 out of 10. This was as good as golf can get. The drama, the back and forth, the excitement level, the pressure. So many guys in the hunt. Everybody was in the mix. Big names too. So I loved it. This was perfect. This was sports at its best.
Yeah, it makes me wish I would have paid more attention to when Tiger was in his prime. Like they kept cutting away and doing certain shots of his based on whichever hole they were, especially early in the morning when it wasn't the main telecast. So you had the bottom folks that teed off, and then they would show what Tiger did on that hole back in whenever he ended up doing it. So it was just crazy some of the shots that he hit. And I knew he was really good, and I knew he was winning a lot, and I always checked the scores, but I never actually watched the tournaments. So Makes me want to go back and rewatch some of that, or again, wish I would have paid more attention in the heat of the moment years back when I had the chance. Same with Michael Jordan. I remember watching some of his games vaguely, um, but I never really paid that much attention to it. So yeah, Tiger and Jordan. I wish I would have paid more attention when they were actually playing.
It gives you perspective of the greats for sure.
Yeah,
Like, don't take them for granted because even those guys, like, super long, extremely long careers in each of their sports, and even with that, like, both you and I kind of missed the boat on both of them. I'd put, even though I can't stand LeBron, like, his level of greatness and being able to watch him in his prime was super fun. Put Steph Curry up there. Trying to think. I mean, Tom Brady, obviously, in his prime. He really only, like, his was more so, I think you'd agree with this, more so like playoff runs, for, like, because he had a lot of seasons where he had kind of upper third statistical seasons. It wasn't, I'd say Peyton Manning was more of a statistical mastermind than Tom Brady was in the regular season.
yeah, for sure. Thinking back on it too, I wondered if we were there or paid more attention to it. How would we feel about it? Would we feel like we're watching the greatest ever, or would we be rooting against them? So I know a lot of people like to root against LeBron. I knew a lot of people liked to root against Tiger after he ended up winning. So that's always interesting to me too, to think back. Would I have been a fan in while they were in their prime, or would it have been one of those things where it's I'm rooting against them just because it is greatness, but I'm sick of seeing greatness? Like even Tom Brady. Like people were sick of the Patriots and sick of Belichick and Deflate Gate and all of the stuff they were going through. Now looking back, you can admit and look back and say, yeah, we were witnessing greatness. We should have appreciated it more. But while you're in the moment, you're like, man, I really want these guys to lose. I'm sick of these guys always winning and always being great. Like somebody needs to take them down.
Yeah, I think rooting for a villain is often just as much, if not more fun than rooting for greatness, especially if that villain is the one that's like holding your team back. Like
Yeah.
LeBron, for example, with my Pistons, when he was going on some of those long runs with Cleveland, basically just annihilating the Pistons. The Pistons weren't really that good when he was going on that second run with the Cavs for a few years, and even the tail end of his first run in Cleveland, and then obviously still being in the Eastern Conference with Miami too, like just literally pushing the Pistons into a locker for years, the better part of a decade, and so like that part, like, yeah, it's great to watch greatness, but like my opinion on the whole thing was always like I would rather see the Pistons be good than watch LeBron win. But at a certain point, like you put him and Dwayne Wade and to a lesser extent Chris Bosh on the same team, like you're not going to have that level of NBA greatness on the same team hardly ever. So it's just good reminder to appreciate greatness in the moment. And like today's even a really good example of that too, with Rory winning the career Grand Slam, one of only six to ever do it. And to think it's been over a decade since he won his last one. So like going all the way back to that, like he's in a different generation the last time he won a major. A lot of these guys weren't even on the pro tour that he was competing against today. So just appreciate the greatness while we have it and enjoy it because it'll be gone in a snap. Like we saw that with Tiger. All of a sudden, his body can't hold up. LeBron's going to retire in a couple years. So enjoy it while we got it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like where you were going there with the NBA because I know we're going to talk about that here shortly. And your Pistons are back in the playoffs. But to put a bow on the Masters piece, I'm very happy for Rory. I know there were some people rooting against him. Not sure why they were. I think maybe it's just they were sick of him always being in the news or being at the top. But you could really tell that the crowd, right, wrong, or indifferent, was really behind him. I did feel kind of bad for Justin Rose walking up 18 at the end when they were doing the playoff hole because after both of their second shots, they were walking up and everybody was chanting Rory, Rory, Rory. And I'm like, that's got to be super awkward for for Justin Rose to be sitting in that moment, right, and know the entire crowd is against him. Well, not necessarily against him, but for Rory and wanting him to win it. So Yeah, it would just have been a great experience, or just to be in their heads when they're making that walk, especially when everybody's chanting Rory, Rory. But just very happy for him, very happy for golf. It was just a great weekend. So
Very happy for us. We got to enjoy it. It was fun.
definitely.
I like when sports delivers. It feels like a lot of times it's underwhelming and it's not quite as good as what you want. And today was one of those days where it absolutely lived up to what everybody was hoping for. So,
100%.
um, other quick news bulletin. I don't know if you saw this. Let me pull up this guy's name. I should have had this pulled up too. There was a bit of an incident on the back nine, I believe, on Thursday,
Yeah, it
in
was. Yeah.
Amen Corner.
Yep, it was Thursday.
So I want to make sure I get this guy's name right here. We had a bit of an incident that I've never seen. Jose Luis Ballester. He's an amateur. He currently plays at Arizona State University. And this guy did kind of what I would think is the unthinkable. He decided to do what anybody who has ever played at a regular public golf course has ever done, at least any male, and just had to go to the bathroom and decided to relieve himself. Unfortunately for him, Thursday at Augusta National was the Masters golf tournament, nationally broadcast on CBS, and he decided he was going to go into the bridge and take personal relief in Rays Creek, which is on number 13. And I believe a whole bunch of spectators caught this during the round. And to think what this guy was thinking, there's porta potties at every single hole for these guys to go. And his thought was, I'm going to just go right now instead of waiting 3 minutes for when I finish the hole and I can just go and be in perfect privacy on the next tee box and be fine. I can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, and you have to imagine with the sheer number of people there, like to your point, when you're golfing on a public golf course, whether it's on the weekend, which is a lot busier than during the week, but you always look around and you're like, hey, is anybody else? Like, I want to make sure that if I'm taking care of business, that it's not out in the public eye. But you're doing it Thursday at the Masters, and I think he was even golfing with Scotty or one of the top golfers that day, because he had mentioned afterwards that he was waiting for them to the other person to wrap up and putt, and he said he was just going to sneak away and take some relief. But then they also said that on the next tee box there were not even porta potties. I think it was legit bathrooms for the golfers on the next tee box. So it's just the mind blowing thing is like you don't there's thousands and thousands of spectators there, and every one of them have a camera, and every one of them has a camera on their phone, and you don't think any of them are, and they are watching all of the pro golfers, pro and amateur, like hawks. Like, you don't think that someone's gonna snap a picture of that and post it somewhere and just blast you. It's just,
And
I don't know what was going through his head. Maybe he thought he was with his boys on the weekend and it was no different than any other weekend of golf with his buddies. I don't know. Just mind blowing.
and to your point, like he was playing with Scotty Thursday and Friday, so he's playing with the number one golfer in the world. So there's going to be a massive crowd around him for that. And then he's also playing one of the most well-known golf holes on the planet. He's playing number three. He's in Amen Corner. He's at Rays Creek. Like the amount of call them highlights or just old time videos of guys right in the hunt of the Masters on Sunday, and they just put it right into Rays Creek, and their Masters hopes just vanish. Like, it's one of the most famous golf holes. It's up there with 16 at TPC Sawgrass. Like, it's way up there on in terms of like famous overall holes. And so people are going to be going there to literally like get a picture of this picturesque hole too. And this guy decides that this is the place where I'm gonna mark my territory. It's now his. He's claimed it.
Yeah, and I guess more power to him if he's not going to get in trouble for it, right? I mean, and I guess sometimes it's better to be well known for something to be not well known at all. No publicity is bad publicity, kind of thing. So maybe it somewhat puts him on the map, and he did not make it. He did not make the cut. So at least he's in the news for something. Because I don't think outside of being the top amateur, I don't think he would have been in the news outside of not making the cut either way.
Yeah, I guess that age-old saying, easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission. So we'll do it and we'll ask questions later.
Yeah.
Jose Ballesteros. Okay. Uh, or Ballister. Sorry, Jose Ballister. Make sure I get his name right. Probably never going to be talking about that guy ever again. But he had his moment. So other couple things we're going to be hitting here real quick. The rest of the lineup, we'll call it. NBA playoff picture is set, so we'll go through that. Some really good round one matchups. I think it's going to be really fun. This, in my opinion, is when basketball all of a sudden, at least pro basketball, pivots. Things get really, really fun really fast. Where the regular season is just way too long sometimes. I sent you a link about this fun little snafu with Coachella, so we'll talk through that after weekend one. Had some issues there, and then we'll wrap things up with some pump fake or hot cake pizza toppings, and we'll get some thoughts going there. So first on the docket here, the NBA playoff picture. Some really good matchups here in round one.
Yeah, definitely. I like when you sent that over. I really did like that. So looking at it, I'll kind of go through who I think is going to win. We can kind of go through each matchup. There are a lot of intriguing matchups that I was not expecting. To be honest, I haven't really followed the NBA, but not really where everybody was going to be potentially seated at. I know my Charlotte Hornets got eliminated quite. They're usually eliminated before the season even starts. So I usually don't really pay too much attention after that. But so you got the Kings, Sacramento Kings, and Dallas Mavericks. And the intriguing part about this one is I think the Kings were not expecting to make the playoffs. I remember they traded De'Aaron Fox and they kept Sabonis, but they traded a few of their bigger pieces. And then you have the Mavericks, who obviously had made the biggest trade that you could ever imagine when they traded for Anthony Davis and then sent Luka to the Lakers, and they ended up squeaking in there at the 10th seed. So I think I'm going to have to go Mavericks here just because I think the Kings were mailing it in, and the Mavericks truly, I think they believe they made themselves better by going with Anthony Davis. I know a lot of people would disagree with that. I know Anthony Davis is a very good player. Whether he's Luka's caliber or not, you can always debate that. But I'm going to have to go with the Mavericks here against the Kings in that first round matchup.
Yeah, I think so too. I think for me, deciding factor is more or less just Anthony Davis, best player on the court. Pretty easy, straightforward to me. I don't. Sabonis is good, but I don't know that he matches up that well in a one game setting for AD. AD's the one that with those two teams that could really just take that game over and drop a 40 spot if he wanted to. So I'm with you. I think Mavs take that one and move on to round two of the Western play in.
Yeah, and I think they would win it hands down, but Kyrie got hurt and he's out for the season too, which kind of put a damper on AD coming back. But I still think they're going to win it and go on to face OKC, which is a whole different beast. I don't think they're going to make it much past that first round, but I think they take that first round. And then you got Golden State versus Memphis Grizzlies. And this one was very intriguing to me. I wanted to lean and go with Steph in Golden State because you really can't bet against them. But I think in this matchup, I'm going to go with the Grizzlies. I think there's too much talent there. I think Ja, for all the negative publicity he has in the news with some of his antics, I think he's going to be the best player on the court. I think he has a very good surrounding cast. So I think Memphis is going to end up taking that matchup. But I think it's going to be a close game. But I think in the end, Memphis is going to pull that one out against Steph.
See, I got Golden State in this one. I'm going
Mm.
Steph all the way. I think Steph, Draymond. I think Jimmy Butler might be an X factor in that one for Golden State. Golden State's been playing pretty solid basketball from what I've seen in the second half of the season. So I think Steph pulls that one out and moves on into the regular playoffs. I think he squeaks them out. Same kind of thing there. It's not as decisive as it would have obviously been maybe a couple years ago, but I think Steph is still the best player on the floor in that matchup individually. Although when Ja's right, look out. I mean, if he's good, Ja, all bets are off at that point. You can you can throw everything out the window. He's as good as they come. But the problem is I don't know how often you're getting that, and he can be a bit of a basket case.
Yeah, for sure. And I keep forgetting that these first ones are playing games. So then, with those, then you would have, for me, I would have the Mavs and the Grizzlies, and I would take the Grizzlies in that matchup. And you would have the Mavs and Golden State, and I would assume you would still go with Golden State
Yep.
against the
Yep. So
Mavs.
Golden State takes the 7 in my scenario, and then I would still have. I guess in that scenario, I probably would go the Grizz because then if you lose the first one, you go to your elimination game
Yep.
because it's double elimination from the play-in. So I would have, for me, I would have Golden State as a 7. They win both of them first time through, and then I would have the Grizz as the 8, winning the second matchup.
Ooh, man, that would make a very intriguing first round matchup with OKC. OKC and the Grizz.
I like that one. I think that'd be fun.
Oh, man. And then on the other side, on the east side, you have the Chicago Bulls and the Miami Heat. I know the Heat traded Jimmy Butler. The Bulls have been up and down. I don't know how you would go against Pat Riley and the Heat. So in that matchup, again, not knowing a ton about either team, but I'm going to have to go with the Heat just because of the coaching and Spoelstra and Pat Riley, just the pedigree that they have. I think they're going to will them through that play-in game.
Yeah, I think so too. To be honest, these 4 teams that are in the Eastern Conference playoff or Eastern Conference play-in, very unexciting to me.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I like the Magic. I think they have a
They're young and
really
very talented.
solid young team. They have your buddy from Michigan,
They got
Wagner,
both.
and they have both, and they have Pablo Benchero. I think that they're going to end up taking that matchup against the Atlanta Hawks. I just think I really like the Magic. I was surprised to see that they were a 7th seed myself.
Yep. Yeah, I think Bankero and I think Mo's out for the season if I remember. I thought he got injured early on in the season after starting really good. But they've got Franz playing really well, and then I think they still have Cole Anthony too, if I'm not mistaken. And he's
Yeah.
playing a solid point guard for him. So I think the Magic end up coming out of that as a 7 when everything is said and done, and then.
The Heat.
Yeah, probably. I think the Hawks and the Bulls are just not really actually that good. I mean, you're getting down to the nitty-gritty of the East where like somebody had to get in. I don't think either one of those 2 teams are like both of them were sellers at the deadline, I think too.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that would make an intriguing first round matchup. I believe the Cavs and the Heat have met in a lot of playoffs here recently in the last few years, and I think the Heat end up taking it. I know the Heat and the Cavs usually have a big rivalry in the playoffs, and the Heat and the Celtics. So I know so that would be intriguing too. I still think the Cavs are way too good this year. I don't think the Heat
They're
end up.
loaded.
Yeah, I don't think the Heat would make it up past that matchup, that first round matchup with the Cavs. And then
So
you
then
have,
the other set in stone matchups. Let
yep.
me see here. Pull up my bracket here on the other web page that I had. 3 versus 6. We'll start in the East. 3 versus 6. The Knicks versus the Pistons.
There we go.
The hometown Stones, baby.
There you go.
I wouldn't be. I think this is very much a coin flip. I am from a fan viewership perspective with the way the Pistons are playing right now. They've really the last month or so embraced kind of like this resurgence of being the bad boys again. They got a couple guys that like to kind of get in there, mix it up a little bit. So I would love to see this series go 7 because I think that would just breed so much contempt between these 2 teams. And I think that would just create so much animosity by the time it's all said and done for a game 7. I think that would be so much fun playing in the Garden. Oh my gosh. So that's kind of honestly what I'm hoping for. Obviously, I want the Pistons to win. I think the Pistons can win too. That's the other exciting thing. I think they're capable of winning this series. I don't think the Knicks are just heads and tails above them. Realist tells me they're probably not going to squeak it out, and it's probably going to be Knicks in 6. But don't be surprised if it's Pistons in 7.
Yeah, I'm gonna lean towards the Pistons in this one. I think the Knicks are the Knicks. They as much of a fan of Karl Anthony Towns. I still am a huge fan of Karl Anthony Towns. I was very surprised when Minnesota ended up trading him. You can't, and then Jalen Brunson, they have a really solid squad, but they always fall flat in the playoffs. And I just think, to your point, the Pistons are re-embracing some of the bad boy. They have Cade playing at a high level. Beasley's playing at a high level. I just think they're going to end up squeaking this out. I think that they are going to take it in 6. I think they're going to hopefully win it in Detroit. That'd be kind of interesting to see. I know it'd re-energize that fan base at Little Caesars Arena. So I'm gonna go with the Pistons in 6 in this one, just because I think the Knicks are the Knicks, and I think they're gonna end up falling flat like they usually do.
I hope so. That would be fun. That would be fun. A very intriguing one. 4 seed Pacers against 5 seed Bucks. Very interesting one.
Very, very. Can't Giannis is back. You can't go against Giannis. I think we were talking about before we kicked off the show that was probably my most intriguing one, just because having Giannis back, but the Pacers are playing at such a high level as well. It's very, that was a tough matchup, but it's hard to go against Giannis and the Bucks with the playoff pedigree and just what he brings to the court and what he brings to the team. So I'm gonna have to go with the Bucks in that one, and I'm gonna have to go. I'll say Bucks in 5.
Yeah, I like that pick. I find it hard to believe that they're going to be able to slow down Giannis to any meaningful degree. I was texting a buddy when the Pistons were playing the Bucks the other night, and if you give him one step running start from half court, it feels like he just dunks everything.
Yeah,
He just
or an
absolutely
and
dunks
one.
it.
Yeah, or he's getting the and one for
Yeah.
sure. Like it's a freight train, and just the speed and the athleticism and the size. Like, what are you gonna do? You're just gonna get ran over. You might as well just get out of the way and just let him dunk at that point. To your point.
Yep. He's so hard to, once he's got a full head of steam, he's so hard to slow down. So I don't think the Pacers have any meaningful counter to that. Halliburton's really good. He's a really good guard. He's also a really tough matchup, but in a different way. So I think he keeps them in it. I think Bucks in 6. I think I'll give him an extra game. I'll give the Pacers an extra game there, but I think Giannis ends up taking over. I think there's murmurs of Dame coming back too. I think they mentioned that in the broadcast when I was watching Pacers or Pistons Bucks the other night. So I think there's a chance that he might actually come back, even though I think he's dealing with blood clots, which is kind of wild. That took Chris Bosh out for like the better part of I think a year and a half, and that's what took the Pistons Osser Thompson out last year for like 9 months, something like that. So we'll see if Dame actually comes back. If he comes back, I'd probably move it to Bucks in 5
Yeah.
because I think that puts him way up.
Yeah, I agree with you. Halliburton, and then I also am a big Pascal Siakam fan.
He's tough.
Yeah, especially I remember with him, he was with the Raptors. He's tough. Halliburton's tough. I think it's going to be a good matchup. You might be right. It might go 6. I just think the Bucks have too much with Giannis in the lineup that they're going to end up taking that thing in 5. But again, you might be right, 5 or 6. But I still think, agree with you that the Bucks take it either way.
I think the games are close too. That's the other thing. That's the Eastern Conference side of things. Western Conference side of things. Lakers, the three seed Lakers against the 6 seed T Wolves.
I'm a big Ant Man. Anthony Edwards, man. I had to go with the Wolves. It's one of those things too that we were talking about earlier. It's you see greatness or you're witnessing greatness when you watch LeBron play, but at the same time, are you always rooting for that or are you not rooting for that? And this is one of the things where it's like at this point, I know he's close to retirement, so on one side of it's like it'd be nice to see him win it and maybe he hangs it up on top. At the same time, though, Anthony Edwards, Rudy Gobert, that whole team, I'm a big Wolves fan. Like I said, I was a little disappointed when they traded Karl-Anthony Towns. I get why they did it, but can you imagine him on this squad with the talent that they have right now? So I think I'm going to go Wolves in 7 in this one. Again, the Lakers probably going to end up winning it, but I'm kind of hoping that the Wolves pull it out. That's why I'm going to give them 7 games to take it in this one.
I want to go. I want to go Lakers in 6, but I think in a series like this is when you start to get Luka exposed defensively, and maybe LeBron lights a fire under him a little bit to play better defense in the playoffs. We'll see. Time will tell. I think it's gonna be another closely contested one. I wouldn't be surprised if the T Wolves pull it out though. X factor for me in the series that tips it one way or the other is Julius Randle for the T Wolves.
Yeah.
I think if he gets his, he was the big piece that came back the other way from the Knicks to the T Wolves in that Karl-Anthony Towns trade. So I think if he gets his and if he plays as good as he's capable of playing, I think he puts them over the top. If he doesn't get his and if he doesn't play the way that he's capable of playing, I think they really struggle to keep this one competitive from a game in and game out standpoint. I think it might be one of those things where if Luca really gets going, look out because the T Wolves just don't have anybody that matches up super well against him. I think Edwards is probably going to end up playing defense on him, but we'll see how that goes. Trying to chase him and stop him from scoring because you want to have him fresh on the other end to get his. So we'll see. I've got Lakers in 7. I think it goes the distance too, though.
Yeah, I don't blame you there, and that's a good point. On the other side too, who is going to guard Anthony Edwards? You know you're not going to put Luka on him. You almost have to probably put LeBron on him, which is going to wear him down. So how effective is he going to be on the offensive side if he's got to be chasing Anthony Edwards around everywhere? And that's a good point too. I completely forgot that they got Randall in that trade. So if that's the case, then who's going to be guarding Randall? Plus, the Lakers really don't have a big man. So if they can get Rudy Gobert involved and get him going down low, getting him the ball, it'd be interesting to see how much he gets involved just because the Lakers really don't have a big man, especially with that size that he has. He'll get his rebounds and he's really good defensively, but it'll be interesting to see if they get Gobert involved on the offensive side just because of the lack of the Lakers size.
Yeah, I think Lakers' strategy has to be to go small. You got to lean into that, and you got to try to pull Gobert away from the basket because if you put somebody just not nearly as skilled, but size wise in there to try and match up with him close to the basket, he's just going to eat up too much space and he's going to end up clogging things up for LeBron and Luka trying to drive to the hole.
Yep.
So I think you got to put somebody in there that's a spacer that can pull him out, and you run pick and roll against him, and you try to put him in pick and rolls out high with LeBron and Luka handling the ball, and that's how you kind of offset his length and his size near the basket is by pulling him out towards the 3-point line, making him guard in a one-on-one setting. So
Yep.
we'll see what they end up going with, but if you let Gobert hang out around the basket, he's gonna end up eating up too much space, gonna block or deter shots, and he's gonna end up just dominate the boards too. So we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. The other matchup in the West that's set in stone is the 4 seed Nuggets against the 5 seed Clippers.
Yeah, this is very intriguing, especially since Denver, for some reason, they're not going to renew their GM after this season, and they fired their head coach with I think 4 or 5 games left in the regular season. Just let him go, and he has been the only coach that the Jokic has had. I know they had very close ties, so there was kind of some offsetting there when that happened. I think that is gonna kind of throw them into a tailspin. It's hard to go against Jokic in this matchup, but I'm gonna have to go with the Clippers in this one just because of the magnitude that's gonna send that team mentally heading into the playoffs just by letting their coach go. So I'm gonna go with the Clippers in 6 in this one.
See, I go the other way. I think it motivates them. I think the Nuggets end up using that to propel them through this first round. I don't think they go on a deep run this year. But Jokic is such a problem, and I don't think the Clippers have any semblance of a match. Not that anybody really has a matchup for him. Best player on the planet currently, in my opinion, from a just dominating the game standpoint and filling up the stat sheet. So I think Jokic ends up taking over the series, and I think it's Nuggets in 6. I think he just can do whatever he wants out there, especially against the Clippers. I don't think I'm surprised that the Clippers are a 5, to be honest with you. I just don't think they're that good of a team this year. I don't expect them. Maybe they end up going on a run. Maybe they surprise some people, but I just don't. I haven't heard any buzz around the Clippers. I haven't heard anybody really talking about them being that good. But two through 2 through 7, I think in the West was within like 4 or 5 games total of each other. Everybody was all bunched up. So with that being the case, like the Clippers are obviously solid. We'll see what it ends up being. I've got Nuggets in 6 though, because like I said, I think Jokic just ends up taking over at least 3 games, and then they find a way with him playing solid to win another one. I think that's how I see it playing out. He's such a problem out there.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. He'll end up getting his triple doubles in each game. It'll be interesting to see who wins the entire thing. I think this year, more so than any in recent memory for myself at least, there's not really a clear cut team that I can say this is who I would put the house on. I know OKC is really good, but are they playoff tested? I know they're a young team. Same with Cleveland. It'll be interesting. I don't think either one of the ones are going to win it, but it'll be interesting to see as the playoffs go how I'll pay more attention to and watch some of these matchups. And we can kind of talk about them in future episodes as we go on, just to see how some of our takes are tracking. But it'll be interesting to see who ends up coming out this year on top.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how OKC ends up doing too. Like you said, get playoff tested. This is the first time they've had any level of expectations on them too. So we'll see how that plays out. The other thing is Boston is kind of laying in the weeds a little bit this year, and they're kind of I think when Miami was going on their run with LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh and everything, I think they had a couple years where they were like the 2, the 3, or the 4 seed or something along those lines, and then they kind of just turned it on come playoff time. I think the Warriors had a year or two like that too, where they were kind of just sitting back there, and then all of a sudden, I think Draymond had that quote the one year of we're a 16 game team, not a 82 game team or something like that. Kind of um, talking about you need 16 wins to win the NBA title. So. Um, I'll be curious to see if the Boston Celtics turned it on. They're obviously still really good. They have basically everybody back from last year. So can anybody, until proven otherwise, they're the ones to dethrone in the East. And I think they are going to be a significant problem. The Cavs, I think, have the same type of questions around them that the Thunder have with inexperience and can you put it all together come playoff time when the lights are brightest. So we'll see if they can piece it together and go on a deep run, but very intriguing. Like you said, it does feel open as it's felt in a long time. Last year, it felt very much like the Celtics to lose, and this year, it doesn't really necessarily feel like that for anybody, whether it's Celtics, the Cavs, the Thunder, the Lakers. The Rockets are actually the 2 seed, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
They came
Yeah,
out of
they
nowhere.
were. It was like not last year, the year before, and the year before that, they were at the bottom of the league, worst record.
Yeah, like top 3 picks, like a couple, literally like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, but I do remember some of the sportscasters saying, "Watch out for the Rockets in the next few years," just because of some of the free agents that they had acquired, the pieces, and then some of the draft picks that they had coming up. They said that they're eventually going to put this thing together and they're going to go on this run. So when I noticed they were a 2 seed, that made me think of that a year or two ago, where they're like, "Hey, they may be bad now, but their future is looking bright." So just interesting to see how teams kind of build and put things together, and how the GMs are bringing in free agent pieces and pairing that up with young talent on the draft side. Good for them. I know they went through it with James Harden and that whole thing. So good to see that they came out better on the other end.
Yep. Yep, it'll be fun. They've got Jalen Green. They signed Fred Van Vliet I think 2 summers ago, something along those lines. So they've got a pretty young core that I think is going to be sticking around for a while. So um, it's exciting to have playoff basketball starting up again this week, though. The intensity ramps way up. All of a sudden, the guys start playing way harder. The the meaningfulness of the whole thing starts to have some traction. So I'm excited to have playoff basketball. Just this is when I can throw a game on at any point and have it be anybody that I'm watching, and it'll be fun just because the guys play so much harder, and now it means something. So the stakes are on. So excited to have playoff basketball back. So next, like we alluded to, next in the lineup here, this was weekend number 1 for Coachella, and apparently they had a little bit of a snafu here opening weekend, or at least opening day, I believe, based on some of the articles coming out of there. So for anybody that doesn't know, if you live in a hole, Coachella is a giant music fest that happens in India, California every year. It's a 2 weekend thing. I don't know how long it's been a 2 weekend thing. Been a 2 weekend thing for quite a while. This is weekend number 1 with literally the biggest musical acts in the world. So they get some of the hugest monumental stars in the industry, bring them in for 2 weekends, and just have a giant music festival for 2 weekends. I think it's Friday through Sunday, if I'm not mistaken, both weekends. So um, everybody was getting amped up that had tickets. I think tickets I saw were like $800 per weekend or something, maybe per day even. It's just absolutely out of sight based on who they're bringing in for talent.
Hmm.
And the articles that were coming out, apparently there were massive lines up to 12 hours waiting to get in and get your car in the fairgrounds for camping for the weekend.
Yeah, anybody that's ever traveled with me or gone on a road trip with me knows that that wouldn't sit well for me. I always need to use the facilities on the road. That's usually why I offer to drive, because if I want to just need to stop or I want to stop, I can stop. I always feel guilty if someone else is driving. If I'm like, hey, FYI, I know it's only been X amount of time, but I want to pull off and hit this rest area on the way. So that would be one for me. And then I was reading too, the temperature was between 102 or 106. And you're sitting there and it's like, okay, do I leave my car run? And at that point, do you run out of gas, or if you're driving an electric vehicle, do you run out of does your battery die by the time while you're just sitting there on the road, or do you only start it when you need to, but then you sit there in scorching heat? So that would be a huge mess for me. I don't know. The juice would definitely not be worth the squeeze on that one for myself. I know that to your point, they have some of the biggest names out there. But at the same time, if I can sit on the couch, air conditioning next to my bathroom downstairs, and put that music on surround sound, granted, it's nowhere close to the same thing. But I don't know if I'm going to put myself through sitting on the side of the road for 12 hours waiting to get into a concert. And I think some of it too is it's a lot of the somewhat of the younger generation too that just wants to dress up and go there and take selfies and post that they're there. I don't know how much of it is actually wanting to be there, enjoying to be there because of the music. I'm sure there is some of that, obviously. I think it's more about fanfare than anything, but that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't even begin to tell you how sour grapes that would be if I had to wait in a car for 12 hours to get parked and then try to have the emotional bandwidth to go have fun at a concert. Like, you obviously you know Brittany well. She would not be able to handle me at that lowest of low points after waiting 12 hours in 100-degree heat. Her and I both, like, regardless of whatever we spent on those tickets, we would be unbelievably out. We would be so far out, and we would tell everybody that we knew that we had the worst possible time. Like, we would make it the worst thing, and we would never finish telling anybody the end of that. Like, that is the lowest of lows, to spend that much money and you literally are just sitting in there in a clam bake in the middle of the desert, and you've got to figure out how you're going to get your car parked, not run out of gas. To your point, when we were talking before we hit record, people with like Teslas, what if you run out of battery? It's not
Uh,
like you can even just like dump a gas can in there. You're going to get those suckers towed. So yeah, I would be unbelievably sour grapes on that. No thanks.
yeah, it was. Yeah, that would not be worth it. I'm sure there's people that are going to make the best of it, right? They go with a big group, and if they're stuck in traffic for 12 hours, they can go. I'm sure hopefully they were expecting it. From the article, it didn't seem like that a lot of them were expecting it, but if you were, you could almost set it up like a tailgate on the road and try to make the most of it, especially if you're looking forward to it as much as I think most of these people were. Just try to make the best of it. But again, that's like driving from Charlotte to Grand Rapids, 12 hours, sitting in a car in traffic. I can barely do it heading down to volleyball every single day. Like you're stuck in traffic for maybe 35 minutes, 40 minutes, not 12 hours. And I lose my mind even after 35, 40 minutes of being stuck in traffic. I can't imagine 12 hours of it.
And you're in the air conditioning, like your air conditioning is 100% working that entire time for that like 45 minutes when you're stuck in traffic. Like, you got to get out and, like you said, you got to go find a place to pee somewhere,
Yeah.
probably right on the side of the highway. And you got to turn your car off because you're going to run out of gas. And it's 105 degrees out and you can't stop sweating.
Yeah.
No, I'm out on that. I'm out on that.
Yeah,
I don't care who's playing.
that's a good point. You're in the air conditioning and you're in comfort and you can throw on a podcast or you can listen to some music, but what do you listen to for 12 hours?
You
You
just
just
bake. You just sit there and roast.
sit there and roast, or you listen to the same music. And even then, if you don't have your car on, your phone's eventually going to die. So you would need to turn the car on to recharge your phone. I don't know. Just mind blowing. 12 hours, mind blowing. Kudos to them.
Yeah.
Cheers to them.
Cheers to them.
More powers
To
to them.
anybody that survived the 12 hours and still had a good time and refused to let the party die. Cheers to you for keeping the good time alive, because I would have been beyond out, the outest of out.
Yep. Yeah. And they got a good story to tell. They ended up surviving on the other end. Good for them.
Yep. Yep. So then our last topic here for today, this will be what closes us out here. This will be our hot cakes or pump fakes. This one was yours. Hot cakes or pump fakes. Cheese and pepperoni are the only toppings that belong on pizza.
Yeah. I was trying to come up with something, and it's always that debate, right? It's, does pineapple belong on pizza? Do anchovies belong on pizza? And my opinion is yes. So I'm going to go pump fakes on this one. You cannot put enough toppings on a pie for me. I love the anchovies, love the pineapple, love the sweet and the savory, the mixture, extra cheese. I don't even need the crust. Just give me a crustless pizza with all the toppings. So I know a lot of people. I know my nieces. They're cheese only. So whenever it kind of hurts my heart a little bit whenever I'm back there and order pizza for them, because I say, hey, what kind of toppings do you want? Just cheese, Uncle Matt. Just cheese. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know if we're from the same bloodline, but maybe it's just that they're younger, but they're big cheese fans. But for myself, I used to be that way, and then my mom and my dad are big Supreme folks, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know if I really want onions and peppers on the pizza. But then, have you ever been to Mr. Scribbs and you get that thin crust Supreme pizza? Man, there is nothing better than a everything on a pizza combo of topping. So I'm gonna have to go pump fakes on this one. What
I
about
am
you?
going so unbelievably hard. Hot cakes on pepperoni and cheese are the only things that really belong. That's probably 99% of the pizza that I eat. You could throw sausage on there, you could throw bacon on there, but I could do without those for the rest of my life too. I think, to steal one from Dave Portnoy, I think cheese is the gold standard of pizza with its level of simplicity. You're talking about potentially only like four components with crust, sauce, cheese, and maybe some slight seasonings in there. I mean, you can make sauce with literally just blitzing tomatoes if you wanted to. So I think cheese is like, if you want to taste just simple perfection, if somebody's using really, really top tier ingredients, you'll be able to notice it from just cheese. Pepperoni is wildly different depending on the type of pepperoni used. Obviously, bigger pepperonis have a lot different flavor than the cupping char pepperonis, which both are really good in my opinion. Both have their place, but I could do without any of the garbage. I could do without any of that stuff. The other thing that's always thrown me for a little bit of a loop, and I'd like to get your take on this, throwing all that other stuff on pizza, in my opinion, can cause more irregularity in the overall quality than a simpler pie, from the standpoint of a lot of times all those different ingredients and different toppings have different cook times, and some of them are more well cooked and more thoroughly cooked, or correctly cooked, I guess would be the better way to say it, than some of the other toppings that are on there. Yes or no?
Oh, definitely. That's why I threw out Mr. Scribbs. They do an amazing job of figuring out what the cook time and the cook temperature is for either a basic cheese or a supreme. So I would completely agree with you. If you have a lot of toppings on there, and it also depends. Are you doing thin crust? Are you doing thick crust? Are you doing deep dish? Because you got to cook that. You got to have a certain amount of time for the cook for the crust as well. And then that could either overcook and crisp up your toppings too much or undercook them. So I'd agree with you there. I'd also agree with you on the quality of cheese. Pizza Hut back in the day when you used to do the book it. I'm kind of dating myself here, but book it, and then you
Oh,
used to.
book it back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't even know if they still do it, but you would read and they would write down however many books you had. Then you'd get a button and you'd get a certain amount of stars. And then if you got 4 or 5, however many books in a week, you'd go to Pizza Hut and they'd give you a free personal pan pizza. Man, just getting that plain cheese personal pan pizza for doing book it, the cheese was just different. It just hit different. The flavor was different, the saltiness, the texture, everything. It's close, but it's not the same today as it was back then for Pizza Hut. And then I also shout out Hungry Howie's. They have the hands down the best cheese pizza. Their cheese, I don't know where they're getting it from, but their cheese is amazing. So whenever I do get Hungry Howie's, I either go with the all veggie pizza, which I know is weird, but if you like veggies and you've never had it, their veggie pizza hands down the best, and their cheese pizza with that Parmesan butter crust, hands down, legit Hungry Howie's for sure.
Something I'd say too, because I think you'll remember this from our home office. When you were at the home office, there was a big group of people that used to order. I don't know if they still do or not. It used to be on my old team. There used to be like a Thursday pizza group that would order
Hmm.
personal pizzas at the home office from a local spot here in GR. And I heard one of the guys that ordered regularly say that the personal, I think it was a 10-inch size personal pizza, and he used to say that the ratios of crust to cheese to sauce to toppings on the 10-inch was specifically way better than any other size that place made. And once he kind of explained that to me and I actually thought about it, I thought he was actually correct in saying that. The ratio of cheese to crust to sauce and everything else on a 10-inch for that specific place and probably other places. I've found it with larger pizzas too. It's generally not as good because like that cook time is generally not going to be as tuned in as it would be with like a 10-inch because I like a little bit of I don't. Sometimes I like crunch, sometimes I don't, depending on the type of mood I'm in, but I don't really want it to be just this uber floppy, soggy, like super greasy mess.
Yeah.
I want the pizza to be able to stand up and hold its own and be able to actually like make it from like holding position of a normal slice of pizza and not just be this huge gooping floppy like I got to try and pour it into my mouth type of situation.
Oh yeah, especially when you take it out of the box and you know right away that all the topping is going to be floppy crust and all the toppings just slide back in. And you know
Yeah,
you're
you're
going to
just
have to
losing
eat
it.
it with a fork, which is how you should never eat pizza in the first
Yep.
place. But that kind of brings it full circle, right? Because on the last episode we were talking about Reese's eggs or Reese's peanut butter cups, and how the cup you get too much chocolate on one end and too much peanut butter in the middle. Same with the way he was describing that 10-inch pizza, like you get the right amount of toppings and the right amount of cook time. So just interesting how those kind of all bring it full circle. But I
Yep.
would agree with that as well. There are certain sizes and thicknesses of pizzas and crust that are gonna end up working out
Yep.
better than the bigger is not always better.
No, I think bigger and a lot of times the cook time on a bigger one is not altered correctly to compensate for the larger amount of dough and cheese and sauce and toppings and everything else, and you end up with a lower quality, to be honest with you. A lot of times bigger is worse for pizza in my opinion. But
Yep, I would agree with you there.
all right, I think that's kind of the end of our topics for today. So episode 2, I think kind of in the books here. We'll wrap it up.
Yeah, episode 2 in the books. Appreciate the good conversation. And we made it through episode 2. And again, haven't spilled our Mixie. So cheers to that. And looking forward to the future and episode 3. So appreciate it. Appreciate everybody listening. Appreciate you, Big Red. And everybody have a good week.
See everybody later.